all right. I got 2:30. What do y'all got? So Sean Dammann, how are you? Oh, you're gonna have to log out, log back in. We got the Mickey Mouse squeal again. So Sean's audio sometimes works and sometimes doesn't work. So we're waiting on him to get back. But I hope everybody's here. We're here for industry update. I remember this song because it was on some commercial we saw recently. So it was all about let's make lots of money. Sean, say something so I know I can hear you.
It's usually the second time's a charm.
There you go.
All right, there we go.
So let's talk about this real estate market. I played that song intentionally because I feel like agents are making a lot of money right now. Are you feeling that? So I pulled some stats on your office, and every one of our offices in the heart of Atlanta are having great success right now. But because you were my co-host, I pulled your numbers. And what do you think, Sean, if somebody worked in corporate America, what's the expectation of an annual raise in corporate America these days?
I don't know because I haven't been in it since I was about 21.
I understand, but you can guess wildly.
Minimal, right? Cost of living increases, we used to call it. COLA.
Like 2 to 3%, maybe 5%.
Yeah.
That's a typical increase in income in a corporate America environment on an annual basis. Do you know what the agents have grown their income by in your office year to date?
You can put me on the spot with that now.
It's 49.5% increase in gross commission income in your office. And your office is not alone. All our offices are having this crazy success and astronomical income growth. And one, it's a cool number to talk about because our agents are making more money. But two, if you're not having those results, you should be. So let's dive in. Let's have conversation. Figure out what you need to do. Sean, what do you think about that when I say that? 50% income growth is unheard of.
I think that all of the activities that I see and every dialogue that I'm in the office support those numbers. I'm curious. I'm going to throw out a question for you guys on Zoom. In one word, I want you to type into the chat page how you would describe this market. Because I'm curious if there's a recurring theme that I see here. Yeah. So just chat one word. If I said, how's the market? What would be your response to me?
I'll put mine. Crazy.
Right.
Chaotic.
Crazy.
Word.
Yeah.
Fast, insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Challenging.
All true. Changing. I like that, India.
Yeah, that's even better.
Okay.
Different.
I like that one too. So here's the reason. I mean, it's a little bit of a trick question. And here's the reason that I ask it. The two that I hear the most are crazy or I'm busy, right? And these are good things. That means there's a lot of activity happening in the market. To me, I think one thing we need to be very aware of is the language that we use. And are we using powerful language when we're having conversations about the market? There is no doubt this is a unique market. Okay, there is no doubt there is more to do, more details to pay attention to than we've ever had to as agents. However, recognize that when you are telling the public or you're telling potential clients, it's crazy or I'm busy, that's not an empowering thing I want to hear as your client. I don't want to work with busy. I don't want to work with crazy, right? And so let's be real careful how we do actually describe that to the public. Because to me, what I'm saying, Brett, is I'm saying a market.
Yes, what I'm hearing you say is my reality as an agent doesn't always translate to a consumer.
Right, because here's what's happened. It has never been a better time to sell your house in Atlanta. Mark, stats will tell you it is the highest prices houses have ever sold for. So it's a great time to sell a house. However, the converse is that doesn't mean it's a terrible time to be a buyer.
Yeah.
Because interest rates are so historically low and affordability is so great that it's actually one of the best times ever to buy a house at the same time. Those two things converging are creating a market dynamic unlike we have seen before. So we have incredibly low inventory because nothing will stay on the market. But so long as you're willing to stick with the process, and if you marry yourself to an agent who's in this every day, who knows what they're doing, that knows the market, that knows the places to work, that's in dialogue with other people about inventory, it's a great time to buy a house. It's not a crazy time to be a buyer. we shouldn't be scaring people away that you're going to have probably 15 offers before you get a property,
There you
right?
go.
What we should be encouraging people to do is make sure they talk to one of us, talk to someone who does this for a living every day.
I love it. Well, let's dive into some numbers. Hey, Rick Hale, I see you popping on.
Hey, can I add one thing?
Yeah, please do.
So in coattailing what Sean's saying, which is incredibly accurate and something we should all be thinking about, in the commoditized world of realtors, there's no better time to craft a story of being superior and more capable of serving their clients at a high level. When everybody wins, we are a commodity. When everyone doesn't, you have the opportunity to prove that you're the place to work and the place to give great counsel and support. Even if it's not perceived easy, that's actually when you're more valuable and you craft stories that are worth retelling to their clients in terms of, or their friends in terms of getting more referrals.
Yeah.
That's 100% my point. Yeah.
And I think
That's exactly what I'm saying.
what
So
you're
someone
saying,
else-
Sean, is those words, if we choose those words, sometimes those words are devaluing to who we are as a professional, right?
And they're
It's just
disempowering
crazy.
people.
Anybody can sell a house, right?
Right. I don't want to work with someone busy. I don't want to work with someone who's crazy. I want to work with someone who's grateful. How are things? I'm so grateful right now. My job has never been more valued because buyers need us more than they ever have, and sellers have needed us more than they ever have. And it's an amazing time that I get to connect those people together. That's a more powerful answer than I'm busy or it's crazy.
All right, Mr. Dammann. So checking out our graphs for the week, FMLS stats, residential metro Atlanta, 1,031 new listings. We took 1,800 last week and we were so excited. And then we went back to 1,000 this week, which just goes to show predictability has to have enough time on the data to make it actually really great and relative. But if you look at our charts down here, we were celebrating the gap of more listings coming on the market, less closings popping off, giving that little bit of breath of fresh air, and then boom, it flip-flopped on us this week, which, you know, Mark Jones was my co-host last week. We were talking about how the lull of after 4th of July happens every year. And somebody forgot to tell us that's a great week to take a vacation, right? Because the real estate market takes a break. But I did some stats. And if you look at this, over the last 2 weeks, we took 2,800 new listings and we had 2,800 closings. So it's almost a perfectly balanced new listing coming on, closings coming off market over the last 2 weeks. So really, what do y'all make of that? I mean, I feel like we're starting to get a little reprieve from this acute seller's market, but we don't really have the data yet to show it.
I believe it's balancing out. I think we're seeing less of properties getting 40 offers, and you may get 2 or 3 offers. But if you look at the second quarter stats that just came out, I mean, we're still reducing the price on properties 38% of the time inside the perimeter. So 40% or one in 3 houses at least is not selling under multiple offers.
Right.
There's still product out there if you're looking for it, right?
Yeah. You know, the other thing, we don't talk a lot about this red line on here, but this is the houses that are going under contract each week, right? Look how constant this line is. Now, obviously, closing has a lot to do with time sensitivity to the age-old real estate training that we all have to close everything at the end of the month, right? And there's cyclical closing dates. But if you look at the number of houses that are going under contract each week, it's a pretty constant line, which is an interesting stat to just look at from a place of demand, right?
Yeah, I think one of the dynamics you see, because you're right, they're going under contract. If you look at the timing, you know, let's go back to say 6/21-ish through the 19th. I believe part of what's driving those dynamics, we are a very school-driven market, right? And those are the months, like right now, the reason that number jumped up is anybody who wants to, at least in the in-town markets, if you want to be relocated, registered in your school district, you got to be in it by August 3rd.
Yep.
Right. And so you have a lot of people right now who are moving in before the closing. I actually think the first and second week of August, unless you have kids in school, are the best time to take a vacation as a real estate agent. Because when school starts back, I think that's actually more of a lull than 4th of July. I think we see a rapid number of closings that come up right after the 4th of July, and then it tails off a little bit once school started. So I do think we should factor in the dynamic of that getting into the school district before it ends.
Yep.
inside the perimeter, that's the number one driving force for people relocating.
Perfect. Well, Rick and I have been working on a project with CoStar, the commercial MLS. So we're planning on getting more robust with our commercial stats in the future. The FMLS stats out of commercial real estate just don't tell us a whole lot, although we track them. But the residential lease market, a tick up second half of July. Like I said, I don't feel like there's a lot of data here unless you're having intelligent conversations with investors or people that are interested in growing wealth through real estate. But last week, we found this chart on showing time. And I think it's interesting, Sean and Rick, it's if you understand supply and demand, and everything is driven by supply and demand, the best measure we have for demand is showings or appointments set of people going and looking at property and how active they're going. And we were laughing because if you look at that right after 4th of July, boom, every week there's a dip in showings after 4th of July, which just says, hey, by the way, the consumers are on vacation. Maybe we should have taken a vacation too. I don't know. But nonetheless, those showings came back up. What's interesting to me is I'm going to put 2020 in a category of its own.
Sure.
And I'm really grading this year's statistics against 2019. And are we pacing with 2019? The historical bell curve of 2019? Are we ahead, behind? We're actually a little bit behind on showings here. And some of the other charts you'll see, we're ahead on some metrics, even on others, and a little bit behind, but more or less, the market's staying pretty constant to 2019. And gentlemen, if you remember pre-pandemic, 2019 was a pretty good year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome. It's killer year.
Yeah. Rick, I got a thumbs up. Does that mean?
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Oh,
No, it was a good year.
Yeah.
And this graph's just fascinating because you can see exactly where we had to figure out how to have safe showings and everyone regain confidence that showings were a good idea.
Yeah.
And so I agree with your theory of benchmarking 19, and parallelisms is pretty inspiring, really.
Yeah. And it just goes to show we're actually in a really good real estate market. In spite of all things you hear in the media, we're succeeding at a high level. As I said at the beginning of the call, Decatur, for example, because Sean's my co-host, the agents have made almost 50% more income this year than they did last year. And I know all our offices are having that kind of success. So it's pretty cool. Stephanie brought up in the chat, she said, what will happen if they lift the eviction moratorium on Gwinnett? There are 11,409 foreclosures. Gentlemen?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at factors that could even out inventory quickly, obviously what we don't know is how many people are in forbearance that are coming out of forbearance that may end up liquidating a property rather than making good on that. The eviction moratorium, to me, focuses more on the investor market. And I think you may see a little bit of triage with people who are challenged being landlords with tenants who haven't been paying for months. If you don't have a balanced portfolio, that could, you could get hit one or two bad properties, and it could make a difference. I know I own a number of multiple investment properties, and I have one or two tenants I've really been working with that, one who's very committed, but he's only paid through April of last year, or April of this year. He's still got time to make it up. But there's going to be people who don't have that liquidity. What I do believe is going to be different, because when I hear this question, my mind goes to 2008, 2009. And what's different this time around is people have equity in their property. So if they can't afford to sell it, they can generally afford, if they can't afford to make their payments, they can generally afford to sell it and not lose money, right? 2008, 2009, people were hitting the situation and their house was worth $150,000 less than they paid for it. And there was nothing they could do. That's what created the short sales and the REO market that was so strong. I think at least now there's a fair market value that people can execute a strategy to get out of a property they don't want. What do you guys think?
I would agree. I think that, this dramatically different staging for what could happen in the coming months versus, to your point, 2008, 9, and 10. And I'll just remind everybody that just because it goes to foreclosure doesn't mean it's a deal. In fact, actually, All right.
She just wanted to cut that part of whatever you just said out of the recording.
Evidently, she didn't like it. Did I not sign the disclaimer that I'm just guessing?
Just keep going.
No, so the point is that I think our team, I bet we sold 1,500, 2,000 over a 6-year span foreclosures. And there's a misnomer that they're the deal and the psychology of wanting the deal. So I think a little more inventory would be a healthy, robust moment for agents looking for opportunity. The question is it in the geographic area, and is it in the condition? And then does it compete with other options that are really what a buyer wants? And so, but if you're in that pocket, man, it may be a moment of, where an investor gets a better deal than we've seen in a few years. So I would just eyes open and ears peeled for it. But at the end of the day, to Sean's point, beautifully said that, everyone I don't know many people that don't have equity in their house unless they somehow magically refinance for 100% and overinflated values. So the odds are they're going to sell at market value, and banks aren't going to be panic selling, and they don't have enough inventory right now that managing that through the process of, they have a whole department that manages acquisition, ownership, and liquidation. And right now they're not overrun. So I don't think a handful are going to really cripple the system and create chaos.
There you go. So let's talk about something else. I want to talk about what being professional looks like. And I want to use some statistics to help prove my point. This chart here comes out of the Chuck Card, Chartmaster Chuck's second quarter report. And this is on page 11 if you go looking for it. But it talks about the percentage change quarter over quarter from the previous year. So obviously, first quarter 2021 was 3.3% higher than first quarter 2020. And then second quarter was 15.7% higher than, which was a bad second quarter last year, right? So that's not really the story here so much, because 2020 created some funky statistics to where it doesn't really give us a lot of data to interpret. But here's what I want you to think about. Last year, third quarter was 12.4% higher than the year before pre-COVID, and fourth quarter was 15.6% higher than the fourth quarter of the year before pre-COVID. And I believe, gentlemen, Sean and Rick can debate or agree, I appreciate either one, that third and fourth quarter this year is where the professionals are going to show up. I believe buyers are going to get reprieve. I believe there's going to be a lot of first-time home buyer stuff going on in third and fourth quarter. And I believe the market's going to really be strong through the end of this year. But I do believe it's not going to happen by default. It's going to happen because agents are going out and taking territory and doing the activities to go get that business. What are your thoughts?
You take
I think most high producing agents and most good agents are the ones that are controlling the narrative around the people they're in conversations with about real estate. And we've got to be the ones driving the narrative and using the statistics rather than letting the media call it crazy or busy or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah. Rick?
I mean, if you look at the numbers and you go back to 2Q of 20 and 2Q of 21, they almost net out. It's about a 3% depreciation, but then you back up to 2Q of 19, we were 0.7 up from 18 or the year prior. So all it tells me is we're kind of flattening on the sheer number sold, and it comes down to inventory and availability. Buyer demand seems to be as good as it's ever been. So some of this hinges on availability, and maybe a few foreclosures in the marketplace helps ease a little of that if it's at the lower price, quadrant or sector.
Yep.
Well, here's
there's no reason to think that we're not going to continue to do well. And most would attest that if we did as well as, 19 for 10 more years, you're going to get your unfair share if you're a quality, capable agent. And that, man, it's a robust market for sure, relative to the rest of the universe.
Perfect. I just want everybody to hear the encouragement that we believe third and fourth quarter is going to be strong real estate markets, and your professionalism and your commitment to activity will go take that territory. And we're talking already that agents have grown their income 50% almost this year in some of our market centers. I think that number can even go up in third and fourth quarter if you play your cards right. And I just want you to have that encouragement. The other slide I wanted to cover, gentlemen, was this one, which is talking about kind of how the sellers markets affected us, right? And I wrote an article for a thing coming out, and it's just talking about opposing forces. And we've got this low inventory, but we're selling more homes than we've ever sold before, right? So it just goes to show that one storyline doesn't create our reality every time. It just becomes a part of a story. And if you follow any news media, they write headlines to sell or to create readership, right? And sometimes the headlines isn't the whole story. And yes, we're dealing with a acute seller's market with low inventory, but that's not the whole story. What else do you guys get from this?
I mean, with lower inventory, I would take today's situation over 2009, 10 out of 10 times. So inventory alone isn't the only driving force, which is, I think, reiterating what you just said.
Top agents are also driving the market, not waiting on the market. So they're having enough dialogue with enough people that they're finding people who are ready to sell rather than waiting on people to call them and tell them they're ready to sell. And, I don't think there's any agents out there going, oh, I don't want to do anything active on the market. But you sell a house or two before it ever comes on the market, or you find a house for your buyer that's not actively listed. That's the best way to find a house right now. And I see top agents are doing deals by calling people and finding properties that people would sell, but they're not actively on the market. And that just comes from having enough real estate conversations with people.
Perfect.
Yeah. And
well,
I'd
Sean, you were
recommend-
gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
That's all right. I was just going to say, and I'd recommend you take a real hard look at your marketing strategies and how you list and sell, and creating a strong narrative and story around how you're differentiated from everyone else. Just because everything seems or appears to be selling quickly and easily, I would highly recommend not taking the easy path of just putting it up and hoping for the best. Like, continue to create amazing stories of success where you outperform the market, and then statistically prove it, over and over, so that, again, you continue to get your unfair share. An extra listing or two a month changes everything in the life of an average real estate agent. And I don't mean average as a person, average as an income source. When $10,000 might be your average income per closing, add 20 to the bottom line. What can you do with marketing and support and branding?
And ultimately, you're building your value proposition that much stronger, right? It's just another feather in the cap.
That's exactly right.
Sean, you were going to talk to us about a couple of neighborhoods we needed to know.
Yeah,
about.
I think in tight inventory, one of the things people look for is, where's the opportunity? Everybody wishes they bought an Oakhurst in 2004, right? So I thought we'd look at a couple of the projects. To me, growing up in Atlanta, being an in-town native, I look at some things, Atlantic Station, that changed that area. It opened the corridor over to the west side and over to Howland Mill and West Midtown and the Belt Line. And talk about a game-changing event, to be able to walk from Virginia Highland to, basically all the way down to Edgewood, Reynoldstown, South Atlanta. These are neighborhoods you used to have to come up or down North Avenue or Ponce de Leon or Memorial, and then you have to come down Briarcliff or Moreland, and they were drives. They seemed very disconnected. And so there's a couple of developments that everyone should be aware of that will, and if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen, Brett.
Go for it.
That we should be talking about. And the primary one that I want to talk about today is Centennial Yards, which is Castleberry Hill neighborhood, or the Gulch. Just to give you guys a little history about this, right? There's Castleberry Hill was once referred to as the Snake Nation. And historically, in the mid 1800s in Atlanta, is where all the rebels were. There was a 50-to-1 average person to saloon ratio in Atlanta, 2,500 citizens and 65 saloons along this roll. And it was run by the free and rowdy crowd who elected the first 3 mayors of Atlanta, right? That area that you see here is the former Snake Nation, was transformed, and it ultimately became Castleberry Hill, right?
You got to stop share and reshare, I think.
So can you not see it?
No, you got to stop share and
Oh.
reshare.
Let's try again. Right, so Snake Nation became Castleberry Hill. Here's almost the same visual of 1850 versus 2009. And Castleberry Hill is all of the old. Most of these were warehouses that ran along the railroad tracks that primarily were centered along the Gulch. which is the area that's for development. So this is what it looks like today. On a typical weekend, you'll see Mercedes-Benz in the background. You'll see State Farm Arena, and you'll see people tailgating for the United in what was the old parking lot. So these are like 3 levels. And I like this picture because you can see the bridge up above. Those bridges surround the gulch. It's kind of down in the middle. And ultimately what's going to happen with the gulch is it's all going to be street level. So they're going to raise the street in this section right here. So here's what we're talking about. Here's Mercedes-Benz Stadium to the left. And here's
We
this
can't
parking
see you,
lot.
Sean, we can't see.
Can't see it again. Okay, we'll do it one more time. As we zone in on it, we're right in downtown Atlanta. We got Mercedes-Benz Stadium right here. We got State Farm Arena right here. And this triangle, this big old parking lot, is the hole in the ground that we were looking at a second ago. It's called the Gulch. And it's being developed into Centennial Yards. Now, right on the back side of the Gulch is where you'll find Castleberry Hill, right? This was where the old Snake Nation was, and where they've taken a lot of the warehouses and they've turned them into lofts. And the ultimate project, when they're done with this, is going to look like this. It's going to be called Centennial Yards, and it's going to be a combination of retail and mixed use and housing. This is a $5 billion project that they're working on in downtown Atlanta that is just now breaking ground. And what it's going to do is it's going to transform that downtown area. So imagine you're standing right in front of Phillips Arena, and this is what's across the street from you now. You're going to have restaurants, you're going to have shopping, you're going to have livable space, and it's all going to be at the same street level. That whole, I assume that the Gulch becomes an underground parking lot for what it once was. But here's what it's going to affect. If you're looking around Atlanta, you can see a little better without the satellite view. Now you've got all these surrounding neighborhoods, right? You've got Castleberry Hill, and just to the west side, you've got Mosley Park, you got Washington Park, you got Vine City, you've got Grove Park, just a little bit up to the north, and you've got the Quarry. And what you're doing is you're taking an area that was, for historically just sort of this empty wasteland that only people showed up to before a game or two. And you're going to have a $5 billion development with parks that now connects, sort of from 5 Points through to the west side, across to the other side of North Side Drive.
Perfect.
And so there's opportunities to buy in those neighborhoods right now.
So let me challenge you on that just a second, Sean. So
Yeah.
I think one level is knowing what's going on, right? Like we should educate ourselves. That's part of our fiduciary duty to our clients, right? To be educated on the market. But how do you really connect the dots into opportunity? You use the word opportunity, but and I agree with you, but I'm curious how you could elaborate on how is that really opportunity?
It's opportunity because it's going to be an area that you once didn't walk around in or didn't hang around in. That's now going to be this huge walkable area that people want to be around. You're going to have, you have microbreweries coming in. In fact, on the backside of Castleberry Hill, they call it Centennial Yard South. They've already started developing those into a 1,500 square foot brewery going in right on the backside. So what are the areas I can walk to from there? What are the amenities? What I would do is get out and go adventure it and go drive it and follow the belt line and follow the belt line connector that goes from the west side back all the way in through Vine City to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. See what some of these neighborhoods are. Pull up some pricing, and I think just get out and explore some places you haven't seen before, where there might be more affordable housing than you can buy houses under $500,000 here. You can still buy houses for $300,000 in Mosley Park.
There you go, my friend. So any last questions? What do you think about Bankhead? How long will it take to change? It seems like it's the last resort. Everything else around it's developing so fast.
Yeah, I think everything connecting towards that quarry and south of West Midtown, it's happening faster than any of us ever thought it would.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, gentlemen and ladies that have joined us, happy Monday. This is your industry update. We're here every Monday, 2:30. Have a good week.
See you guys.